I wanted to share a experience I had, story time, of something that just happened to me that I personally feel was divinely timed, and we are being pushed into our spiritual space so that we can see where we're repeating patterns that no longer serve us, and they're just creating cycled toxic energy, and lessons are being repeated, but we're being pushed into a state of conscious awareness so that we can shift out of these habits and behaviors, see where we need to heal and move forward in a higher frequency and be more directed into our actual life purpose of why we're here on this planet in this lifetime, like it's happening. Now, I'm an intuitive health medium, but I'm also a Reiki master and I'm a spiritual coach. I do all sorts of things. But with the session I did several months ago, I was looking at where this person had had trauma trapped energetically that was manifesting into physical illness. And what was happening is she had all these issues and illnesses on her left side that were manifesting from an extremely toxic work environment. It was in a law firm. Now, this woman, when I looked at her energy, I was like, holy shit. Like, this is the most covert narcissist relationship issue I've ever seen, and that was her boss, which I found out later was her boss through realizing it was the feminine energy that was causing these issues. Now, she had thyroid issues on the left side. She had frozen shoulders. She had a pinched nerve in her neck, tightened, real tight chronic neck pain in her trapezius muscle and the base of her neck. She had TMJ on the left side. She also had some dental work with teeth issues on her left side. She had all sorts of issues that all were coming from the left side of her body. What was happening is it was all taking me back to a covert narcissist female that was in her work environment. Now, at first, it felt like a relationship, but right away, because everything was on the left side of her body, I knew it was someone at work, which it turned out to be her boss. Now, here's where it really gets interesting, because her boss had almost the exact same type of behaviors and how she was treating my client at work that my client went through in her childhood with her mom. Now, in childhood, my client, because of the covert narcissist behaviors of her mother, quickly shifted into a fight or flight, like survival mode. She looked like an adult in childhood, and she created a lot of habits and behaviors to help her feel safe in the childhood home by basically raising herself. But she had all these energy blocks to the left side of her body and the back pain. She had hip issues. She had a lower back pain, sciatic pain, pain in the glute muscle, piriformis pain. She even had pain in her Achilles and neuropathy in her feet from like walking on eggshells and feeling unstable in the home. Like she could never get grounded and feel safe in the childhood home. She was always in fight or flight. And what happened is these behaviors continued as she matured into adulthood and then went to law school and just kept going. But she was still in a fight or flight survival mode because she was basically just staying in this pattern, which caused her to vibrate in somebody in her work environment that was exactly like her mom in childhood. So now here's where the plot twist is. Today I'm at my desk, I'm working on my book, doing my thing, and I get this heated message from somebody that sends me a screenshot that says, "Is this you? Did you say this about me?" Very upset woman. So long story short, it turns out the woman that I had the reading with several months ago, because of the accuracy and how well I described her boss, she had screenshot how much I described her and sent it to a friend who then looked at this and went, "Oh my God, that is exactly how this person is," and sent it to another friend. And somehow through the time of people sharing this reading, it ended up on the boss's desk. She came to me to see if it was me that said it all. So the conversation starts with me introducing myself, sending her a link to my website so she understands this is actually a professional service that somebody pays for that I provide, and that it is not gossip, that it is actually a session with a client, basically no different than if someone were to see a therapist and my client chose to share her session with friends and it ended up at her desk, which is not my responsibility what people do with their sessions after they get done with me. But I was very cordial and very polite and tried to help explain things. But what made it so difficult is how angry she was, because she's a covert narcissist and basically read all these things about herself, which heated her and had her hot on my desk. And just to give you an idea of what this woman read about herself, some of the things that I had described with my client in her session was how this woman enjoys watching people suffer, how she sets them up to fail, and then when they get frustrated, or in some cases I could pick up that she made my client cry or other people in the office cry because of how hard she was on them, that she enjoyed it. She enjoyed watching them cry. It empowered her that she could see people cry because of her behaviors. It was like it empowered her. And I also brought up how much she avoids accountability with issues in the office that are her issues. And I also brought up how she basically like targeted my client. And I really felt like she targeted my client because my client was always on top of her cases and always on top of her work. And I felt like she was jealous of her, so she was always setting her up to fail to try and make it look like she wasn't doing her job. And there were all these really toxic issues that were totally covert narcissist behaviors that were creating a very toxic work environment for everybody in the environment, especially my client. So as this woman and I are conversing back and forth today, I ask her, I say, do you mind if I look at your throat chakra? I have a feeling about something, and I feel like this is all divinely timed, and I would love time with you if you're okay with that. I think I can clear this up just by reading your throat chakra. So she fires back, yes, I would love to see what you find. And I could tell she was challenging me. Like she had her guns loaded. She was coming at me and she was like, oh yeah, bring it, honey. And I was like, here we go. Your guides are coming. So what ended up happening over this very long, extensive reading on the throat chakra, I was able to validate and confirm the toxicity in her home environment with her husband, who was extremely abusive. He was very controlling. He was very OCD. He micromanaged the money. He micromanaged her personal life. He micromanaged her family life with her family, like her mom and her dad and her sister. And he was very controlling, which caused her to be extremely suppressed in her energy. And she had a significant amount of physical illness from being in this marriage for almost 20 years. And she had TMJ on the right side of her body. She had chronic neck pain on her right side of her body. She also had hip issues. She had fibromyalgia. She had chronic fatigue. She had all these issues from being basically energetically squeezed in her marriage. And what was happening is because she was staying suppressed in both emotion and behavior to avoid conflict and try to maintain a stability in the home and feeling safe, she kept everything suppressed, both energetically and physically. Like she didn't talk, she didn't speak to him. They were just totally coexisting and on completely different ends of the house. But it was still an extremely stressful environment because of how she was being controlled. And she was bringing all of that into the workspace. And I was able to validate that her workspace that she was creating through being the boss and the owner of the firm was an exact reflection of her home environment with the toxic marriage and her husband, but only she had all the illnesses and all the issues on the right side of her body because the right side's the masculine energy, which gets impacted if the trauma and stress is coming from a masculine energy person. Now, if you're still following me and you're still here, I feel like this was divinely timed because, side note, ding, 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 she was incredibly gifted as a psychic, but she is very logical, right? Obviously, she's an attorney. It's all about facts. It's all about having things on paper. She didn't believe in anything spiritual because you can't see it. You have to trust it. You have to feel it. You have to let it flow. But she was ridiculously psychic and very skilled intuitively, which was why she was so good as an attorney, because she didn't even realize she was tapping into her abilities, which is why she's so successful with her job. And her psychic abilities, her intuitive abilities, came from her childhood with her father, who her husband was a reflection of. Because of her abuse in the home, she had her head on a swivel, and by the age of 4, she was incredibly empath. By the age of 5, she was psychic. By the age of 6, she was reading every adult in the room, so she knew where to go where it was safe, and she could see where there was danger or risk, and avoid those areas or avoid those adults in her childhood home. And through all of this happening, it opened her up spiritually, and it allowed her gifts to be revealed right in front of her face through the illnesses that had manifested from her marriage that she had now put in her work environment through her behaviors. She was basically exactly like her husband in her work environment because she was reflecting his behaviors. So it brought all of this energy forward. So I was over here like, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I am like honored to be here and have this experience. And by the end of the conversation, she was like overwhelmed with tears and emotions of all these things that came through that revealed so much about her. So truly, I'll tell you, when we're in a position where we're trying to deny and hide from ourselves, our guides in spirit are going to come through. They're going to find a way to make us see ourselves.